Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Reports. We are live across the northwest.
Yeah, good evening. Here's what's coming up on tonight's programme.
The latest from the trial of a man accused of killing his housemate and dumping his body parts around Greater Manchester.
MP Mike Amesbury, jailed for drunkenly punching a man to the floor, resigns from Parliament.
The mum of two who says she has no choice but to ask the public for help to try and save her life after being diagnosed with a rare aggressive cancer.
I don't like to be in a position where I have to ask the general public for money to save my life. Like, why is it on them? I want to live. I want to see my children grow up.
Only rainwater from now on, the pledge to clean up Windermere from sewage spills.
And we're in Wigan, where the local community is working on a fantastic project to mark the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day.
And glorious weather over the weekend. Many of us were having a hoot, but will it be honking for the rest of the week? Stay with us to find out.
Well, first tonight, in the last hour, disgraced Cheshire MP Mike Amesbury has announced he will stand down from his role from Parliament.
Yeah, Amesbury, who represents Runcorn and Helsby, was convicted of drunkenly punching a man and spent 3 nights in prison before successfully appealing his sentence.
Our political correspondent, Leisha Manali, is in Westminster for us this evening. Leisha, what more can you tell us?
Well, this news isn't a huge shock to many in Westminster tonight. I think for weeks the only real question about Mike Amesbury's future is whether he would jump before he was pushed, because really it would be very difficult for voters to forget the scenes that played out in October last year. That CCTV footage in Frodsham High Street, which showed the MP punching one of his own constituents to the ground and following that attack with several more blows. It's an action Mike Amesbury says he regrets every moment of every day, and it's an action which has ultimately ended his political career. Now, at the moment, nothing's actually happened yet. Mike Amesbury is still an MP and, incidentally, still in receipt of his MP salary. What follows next is a strange little parliamentary procedure where he asks for a new job title. It's a formality, but that's the mechanism of him standing down. After that, the race is on for the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, and you can bet all political parties will be throwing the kitchen sink at this one. It's the first since the general election, the first major political temperature check. Labour, of course, keen to cement their recent boost in the polls and prove they can hang on to what was once a safe seat. But Reform came second here and will be desperate to prove that they have the potential to make considerable gains in red wall seats, that they aren't just a novelty party or a protest vote, and how well they do watched very closely by the Conservatives. So it really will be all eyes on one corner of Cheshire to see what happens, and they won't have long to wait. If Mike Amesbury's resignation formalities go through smoothly, voters could go to the polls on the 1st of May, the same day as the local elections, and deliver their verdict on what has been an extraordinary chapter in British politics.
OK, we know that you'll be following that by-election closely. Leisha, for now, thank you.
Well, next tonight, and a man accused of murdering his housemate and dumping his body parts around Greater Manchester told police it's definitely a mistake 100% during his arrest.
Stuart Everett's remains were found in multiple locations around Salford last April.
Yeah, Marichin Majekovic, who denies murder and an alternative charge of manslaughter, was detained and arrested after he was spotted getting on a bus heading towards Salford precinct last April.
Our reporter Emma Sweeney has been in court for us today, where she's heard some information viewers may find distressing. Emma.
Well, Gamal, today jurors were told how 3 weeks after the first of Stuart Everett's remains were discovered at Kersaldale Nature Reserve in Salford, 2 plainclothed police officers spotted an individual on a path who they thought had matched the description of the murder suspect in their investigation. They were in an unmarked police car. They got out, parked up, got out, and they started to follow this individual who they noted had got onto a bus. They then alerted colleagues who were able to identify that bus. They they stopped it. And body cam footage that was played in court today showed the moment that officers handcuffed the suspect in this case. They led him off the bus and they detained him as they verified his identity. Marcin Majewicz was then told that he was a person of interest, to which he responded, "It's definitely a mistake, 100%. He was told that he'd been seen on several occasions on CCTV by police who were investigating a serious incident, and a few minutes after this he was then arrested on suspicion of murder.
And Emma, transcripts from the police interviews with Marcin Majewicz were also read out in court today.
Yeah, that's right. So jurors were told that there were 7 interviews, the first of which took place in the early hours of the 26th of April. Now, in this interview, Marcin Majewicz opted not to have a solicitor present, although he did have a Polish interpreter. And he said that he hadn't murdered anybody or disposed of their body parts. He was asked to describe himself. He said he was a normal, average man. He said he liked football, he liked Manchester City, he liked watching TV, and he saw his children whenever he could. Now, in a second interview, he was asked whether Stuart Everett was alive and well, to which he responded, "I hope so. All leads need to be checked." Now, in other interviews, there were 7 in total. In other ones from the 4th onwards, he did have a solicitor present, and he was asked several questions, including whether he'd cut up the body into a number of pieces so that he could take it out from the address a little bit at a time so that he wouldn't be suspected. He was asked whether an argument had taken place, whether Stuart Everett had been accidentally killed. He was asked whether he thought anybody had stitched him up. Each time he responded, no comment.
Emma, the court has released some CCTV footage this afternoon that was shown in court last week.
That's right. Now, it's the case for the prosecution. They say that this footage, that there's lots of footage and that it shows several journeys made by the defendant in this case to dispose of his victim's body parts. Now, this particular footage that was released today, the prosecution in this case says that it shows the defendant making his way to Kersaldale Nature Reserve in Salford to dispose of the first of Stuart Everett's body parts. Now, the defence in this case, they don't dispute that this is Marcin Majewicz in this CCTV footage, but what is disputed is that he was going to dispose of Stuart Everett's body parts. Marcin Majewicz denies murder and an alternative count of manslaughter.
Emma Sweeney, live in Manchester, thanks so much.
Well, next tonight, and a mother of 2 from Lancashire says she has no choice but to ask the public to help save her life after 3 years of treatment for cancer.
Yeah, 36-year-old Victoria Howarth has a rare form of the disease that's linked to cells left in the body following pregnancy.
She's had a hysterectomy and was due to have part of her liver removed when it was discovered that repeated rounds of chemotherapy had not stopped the cancer returning. Doctors believe there is only one way left to tackle it.
Anne O'Connor has been to meet her and now takes up the story.
Sharing a coffee and almost 2 decades of family life and friendship at home in Freckleton, Victoria and her brother's wife, Rebecca.
18 years. We've had children together. We've been pregnant at the same time. And I've had her along by my side, you know, for the last 18 years, supporting me through everything.
But a pregnancy-related rare aggressive cancer now sees them sharing the race to keep Victoria alive. 3 years of chemotherapy and surgery haven't worked, and the choriocarcinoma has spread. So an online appeal hopes to raise at least £50,000 for immunotherapy. How are you feeling at the moment?
Scared. Worried. There's obviously the worry that it won't work, and if it won't work, I don't have many options. Well, I don't have any options. I only have this option. So it's obviously concerning that this might not work.
Because you have kids?
Yes. Yeah, 2 girls. And a husband. And obviously I'm worried that I'll leave them behind.
It is treatment not available on the NHS. And they don't know how many sessions Victoria will need.
I don't like asking people for money.
But you have no choice.
I know, I understand why the NHS can't provide my treatment, but I also don't like to be in a position where I have to ask the general public for money to save my life. Like, why is it on them?
Donations have so far raised more than £15,000 and marathons and mountain challenges are planned.
It just felt all very hopeless. But what we found is when we reached out and asked for the help that she's not asked for up until now, everyone sort of reached back, and that was very overwhelming, but, you know, really, really appreciated and nice that just to see that support coming back as well for her and that love coming back as well, so.
It gives you hope.
Absolutely, yeah.
People are immensely generous. What would you say to people about why you want the money, why you need the money?
I want to live. I want to see my children grow up. I have plans with my husband for when my children have grown up. I want to be here.
Anne O'Connor, ITV News.
It's really heartbreaking to hear Victoria's situation there, and if you want to read more about her condition and her fundraising efforts, just head to our website. That's at itv.com/Granada.
OK, let's take a look at some more of the day's news now. And a woman has been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving after a man and his dog were killed after being hit by a car in Manchester last night. A black car collided with another vehicle before crashing into the pedestrian. It happened at the junction of Holyhedge Road and Greenwood Drive in Wythenshawe, causing fatal injuries. The woman, in her 40s, has since been released on bail.
Police in Blackpool have issued an urgent warning after 3 people, 2 men and a woman, died in cases linked to drug use. A 31-year-old man from the area has been arrested and questioned on suspicion of being involved in supplying Class A drugs. He's now been bailed.
Well, next tonight, to plans to clean up what is one of our most stunningly beautiful national treasures.
Yeah, Lake Windermere's scenery, its rare species, its cultural heritage attracts 7 million visitors every year, but not quite so welcome, the vast level of water pollution.
Well, the Environment Secretary was in the region today pledging to clean up the beauty spot, saying only rainwater should enter England's largest lake. Jennifer Buck reports.
It's high on the list of England's best beauty spots, but Windermere's water hides an ugly secret too. At times, this lake is choked by sewage, hundreds of thousands of litres a year. Something the government says has got to change.
This government is absolutely committed to cleaning up Lake Windermere. It's iconic, it's a national treasure. It makes people furious to see what we've seen in recent years, 140 million litres and more of sewage being put into the lake, causing harm to fish, causing harm to birds and even threatening children's health. So this government is taking steps to make sure we can clean this lake up.
So what are those steps? First, tackling the ancient water treatment works that gets overwhelmed by heavy rain. United Utilities will spend £200 million upgrading 10 sites here, and maintenance inspections will be quadrupled.
What that's going to mean is we're going to reduce all 6 storm overflows into Windermere down to 10 spills or less per year. That's an 89% reduction.
But old infrastructure's not the only problem polluting these waters. There are nearly 2,000 private septic tanks in the area, so there's a lot to fix, which is why campaigners want the government's target to be set in stone.
So it's an incredibly positive first step. We really welcome today and the ambition of government, but in relation to does it go far enough, until this is a legally binding commitment and until we know exactly when there's going to be no sewage going into Windermere, we're not going to stop now.
The government's ultimate aim is to have nothing but rainwater ending up in Windermere, and today they've launched a study into how to make that happen. It brings together United Utilities, the Environment Agency, local council and campaign groups, something the local MP says is a good step.
I mean, I'm trying not to be the typical opposition politician who says, yes, doesn't go far enough. And I could be very cynical about all this. Yes, it's only a feasibility study with a bit of money attached to it. Having said all that, the aim and the ambition set out by the government today is to make sure that nothing but rainwater goes into Windermere. That's a very clear promise that we can now hold them to. To do that will mean real investment, and it will mean United Utilities really putting money where their mouths are.
The stakes for this region are certainly high, with the lake a centre for the local tourism and economy. Many now wondering if a sewage-free status is really in its future, or if this will only ever be a pipe dream. Jennifer Buck, ITV News.
Yeah, it really is one of the region's most beautiful spots, isn't it?
It's gorgeous, stunning.
Plenty more still to come on the programme, including
the community centre in Wigan with a very special request for those who grew up during the war.
And in the weather, what a weekend. Many of us were lapping up the sunshine and having a ball. But Mother Nature is just reminding us that it's March and it can be rather changeable. So colder weather on the way. All the details coming up.
Time now for a look at what's to come on the ITV Evening News at 6:30 with Mary.
Coming up in the programme, a major rescue operation is launched after an oil tanker collides with a cargo ship in the North Sea. The government vows to clean up Lake Windermere, which it says is being choked by unacceptable levels of sewage. And the King marks Commonwealth Day by celebrating differences as a source of strength. Well, do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
I was reading earlier that some of King Charles' favourite songs is The Locomotive by Kylie Minogue.
I also think he's a big fan of Bob Marley as well.
Yes, great taste. OK, well, next, St Helens-born comedian Johnny Vegas has created a new art project which he's described as a love letter to St Helens. The comedian has spent the last 5 years creating a series of tiles made of ceramic and glass with individual messages thanking the town for sticking with him. He's been working on the piece with artist Emma Rogers. It'll sit within the World of Glass Museum and will be revealed to the public tomorrow.
St Helens with the Arts Council was cited as one of the 12 places in the country most lacking in artistic input. We need to have this conversation of how important art is. We've got so many creatives, so many fantastic people. We're not the best in St Helens at reminding ourselves how good we are. And we keep hiding our light under a bushel, and I think it's time we took it out from the bushel and waved it around a bit and said, we're good at this.
Cumbria Wildlife Trust says it has recorded its highest seal count ever at its South Walney Nature Reserve near Barrow. A whopping 560 seals were recorded at the reserve. That's up from 500 a few years ago. The Trust says it's due to its efforts keeping the mammals safe and minimising disturbance to the colony. It's urging people not to access the beach while the seals are there, as well as not using drones around them.
Well, time now for a look at sport, and a North West football manager has been sacked, Mike.
Yeah, that's right. This will come as a shock to followers of the Women's Super League. In the last hour, Manchester City women have sacked head coach Gareth Taylor. A shock because this coming weekend, City are in the final of the League Cup. And only yesterday, Taylor guided the Blues into the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Former boss Nick Cushing returns to take charge on an interim basis. Taylor watched his side beat Aston Villa 2-0 to secure their place in the last four, but City say results this season haven't reached the club's high standards. They are currently 12 points adrift of WSL leaders Chelsea. So Taylor won't be around for a Manchester derby in the FA Cup semis. That's after the reigning cup holders United got the better of Sunderland 3-1. Liverpool will face Chelsea in the other semi. That is after a shock 1-0 win against Arsenal. Now it is surely a matter of when and not if Liverpool's men get their hands on the Premier League trophy. They are now 15 points clear at the top, though their manager wants to see a big improvement for tomorrow's Champions League clash against Paris Saint-Germain.
I think Paris Saint-Germain showed us the right example. They played Lille in incredible intensity, 4-0 up at half-time, and then they played against us. And that intensity I haven't seen before in a game we played this season. So, yeah, we have to not only, so when I look at the game against Paris Saint-Germain, we have to go one step up in terms of intensity. If I compare it with the game today, we need to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps up in terms of intensity if we want to have any chance of reaching the next round.
Next, and thousands of Manchester United fans protested against the club's owners ahead of yesterday's Arsenal match. There were angry chants aimed at both the Glazer family and co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The 1958 fan group organised the protest after a string of unpopular decisions at Old Trafford, including staff cutbacks and rising ticket prices. Into the Football League, and Burnley have maintained their pressure on the Championship's top two. They won 4-0 at home to Luton Town. Other winners over the weekend included Bolton Wanderers, who climbed into the League One playoff places with a 2-1 win at Burton Albion. Blackpool are up to 11th in the table after their 3-0 victory away to Barnsley. And Wigan Athletic, currently without a manager, pulled off an important win 1-0 at home to Cambridge. Andy Crosby will remain Tranmere's interim boss until the end of the season. Rovers won 2-1 against Bromley to move 4 points clear of the League Two relegation zone. And Barrow were also winners. They are now 14 points clear of the drop zone after their 2-0 victory at home to Accrington Stanley. Finally, and a warning of flashing images next as we go to the moment Manchester United legend Gary Neville stole the show at a concert in his home city. Yeah, the TV pundit made a surprise appearance armed with his guitar as the Raytons ended their tour at the Aviva Studios. The 5,000 crowd went wild as Gary played bass guitar on the hit song Low Life. There you go, a man of many talents. He looked at home there, didn't he? It's the happiest I've seen him in years.
Do you think he was actually playing there?
Absolutely. I've seen him play on stage before. He's good. He's good.
He was literally living his best life, isn't he?
Mike, thank you.
Thank you. Now, May the 8th is going to be a big day in the calendar as we celebrate the 80th anniversary of VE Day, which marked the end of the Second World War in Europe.
Well, a community centre in Wigan is asking locals who grew up during the war, who attended street parties, to come forward and take part in a special project to capture those memories on video. Paul Crone has more.
Sunshine House Community Centre in Wigan is hitting the right note to encourage people to tell everyone about their lives on the home front in World War II. It's hoped this empty chair will soon be occupied by those who lived in the Wigan area from 1939 to 1945, and like these factory workers in Manchester, celebrated VE Day in style. People like 87-year-old Josie, who can still remember a country at war.
I was going to see my father in hospital in Manchester, and we went on the train, me and my mother, and there was all this glass on the side of the road. And she said, "Do you know what that is?" I said, "No." She said, "It's what was come out of all the windows when Manchester were bombed."
The idea is to film Wiganers' memories from the war and VE Day as part of a project to be saved for future generations. The interviews will be done by children from the surrounding area.
We want an off-the-wall record of what really happened in the war to children, what they remembered of VE Day, but we want it from the perspective of the kids of today.
We lived in council property, we had a party, and I remember at school they gave us some drinking chocolate as a present. I'd never had that in my life before, you see. It was a treat.
And a surefire contributor to the film will be 100-year-old Eric Ratcliffe, who fought in France with the Grenadier Guards in a Churchill tank.
You had the tank commander, wireless operator and gun loader, and then a driver and a co-driver, yeah, and then me.
The end result will be kept for posterity locally and also sent to Buckingham Palace.
I think he'll love it. I mean, apparently he loves dancing to the locomotion, I've heard on telly this morning. So with some of the songs we're going to be performing, I hope he'll dance along to them too. So hope you see it, Your Majesty.
To take part, simply contact the Sunshine House Community Centre in Wigan. Paul Crone, ITV News.
We would love to hear those memories too. Let's have a look at the weather. Here's Emma.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there. Hope you've had a good start to the weekend. Wasn't it a glorious weekend? In fact, it was the hottest day of the year so far yesterday, and Crosby was the top hot spot, not just across Granada land, but also across the whole of the UK. And it's the earliest in the year that we've reached 19 Celsius since the mini heat wave of February-March 2019, when we exceeded 20 Celsius for the first time in the month of February. So going forward this week, turning colder. Yes, it'll be gusty at times, 45-mile-an-hour gusts this afternoon across the Isle of Man. And yes, you do see correctly, a few wintry showers in the mix. It's midweek, especially over higher ground, so it's just Mother Nature reminding us that we are still in the month of March, and it is a changeable month. For now, the south of the UK hangs on to milder temperatures from the near continent, but you can see over the next 24 hours we're flooded by those blue colours, and it remains cold for the rest of the week, still with some showers across the Mediterranean. Rewinding though for us, for the next few hours, you can see clouds sinking southwards and clearer skies chasing it, with a widespread frost developing through the early hours of the morning, further north especially. Across the Isle of Man, still a bit breezy, and at the coast and over the tops of hills. Then we're into tomorrow, and the sun's up at 6:36 and sets at 7 minutes past 6 in the evening. So tomorrow morning will be bright and cold and really rather chilly and frosty. If you have seen a light shower in the north overnight, maybe 1 or 2 icy stretches, turning cloudier later in the morning and into the afternoon. And look at that big drop in temperatures, down by a good 10 degrees on where they were over the weekend. Still a bit gusty in the usual spots through the Irish Sea, and then a few more showers becoming more widespread into the evening period and turning wintry over the tops of high ground. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Well, summer was nice, all 2 days of it.
It's going to be snowing on Wednesday, are you joking?
Emma did not just say it's going to snow.
I think wintry showers.
Unbelievable.
Get your big coats back out.
Do it. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.